We are going live now. Tuesday, April 21st, I believe. Third week of April. I'll just leave it at that. All right, so usually I start kind of early. What we're going to talk about today is something that is kind of elemental with all the bots I'm creating dynamically. And when I say dynamically, I'm able to have AI create the trading bots for me in Python, based upon market conditions, based upon a series of market events for the futures and options market. So I purposely tried last few days, well, Thursday, Friday, I spent time doing this on which bots or which AI LLMs, large language models, work for this type of process, and that they do have a factor in what is profitable or not, and you spend money on it. So as a result, you have some success, and sometimes you may get bots created, and they can run, and they may not be profitable at all for whatever reason. So I'm going to go through, I think it's about 8 or 10 of them right now I can go through. The ones that work the best, there's only really one right now I can kind of rely on mostly. But the first ones are from Claude or Anthropic. A couple of issues that I have with Anthropic at where we're at. I just tried the latest Claude 4.7 for Opus. It doesn't run. A lot of the code is incomplete and it's very expensive. So I kind of feel that that particular model's rushed and not comparative to the quality that I'm used to on other Claude models when they come out. Between 4.5 and 4.6 felt like a huge jump. So that's what I thought I was going to get with 4.7, and it was a complete failure. Actually, I think it went backwards. And as I said, it's very expensive. So the other problems with 4.6, Sonnet specifically, it's very slow at creating bots. And that can be a factor as well, because if you're building off of news, you want the thing to be very quick. So it's quite slow. What I did notice with Claude Opus 4.7, it generated the code quickly, but as I said, it failed. So right now, with the billing problems that I'm having with Anthropic and Claude, it's no longer my reliable, high priority bot at all. Next comes OpenAI. The only one I'm really using out of that is 5.3 Codex. That one is what I'm using. That works reliably, and then there's a balance between the expensive stuff and what's reliable and what works. I put up a video on it, and when I run code or generating dynamic bots from that code, what I'm finding is I'm able to get more opportunities in trading with Codex. So that's what I choose. And that's, again, Codex 5.3 as well. That seems to be the most reliable. Now, I can go in through all of the Chinese ones I've talked about. If you got any questions or comments on this type of way, I'll gladly answer them. The first Chinese one was the one we thought was DeepSeek 4, which probably kind of is. That's from, I think what their DeepSeek's doing is they're licensing the technology to different companies. I know they did a license deal with Huawei, and I can't remember the other company. It was one of their processors. Also with, hello, CNN, how are you? Thanks for letting me know. So this particular model is from Xiaomi, I can never pronounce it. That came out about a month ago. That's MiMo version 2 Pro. So this could be, I'm not saying it is or it isn't, a reflection of the DeepSeek 4. Generates errors, quite expensive compared to what we used to with the DeepSeek 3 world. So none of the Chinese models are quite there yet, but there are some decent ones that may look good. So there's Kimi 2.5, I believe that just came out recently. It works. The code's quite lengthy, and when the code's good and lengthy, that means it's a good quality generation of code. And again, these are all for Python. It works, creates, but you get runtime errors. So when you start to get runtime errors compared to Codex, which does not give you runtime errors, it's the Codex that gives you that standard. So obviously that's a chargeable model. So if you want something professional with that happy balance where it creates the code for you in a reliable way and it's flawless, the Codex 5.3, as I said, is the standard I look for, and everything is compared against that. So the Kimi 2.5, there's those issues. Then we move into the new Minimax 2.7. That just came out. It generates the bot very cheaply, like really cheap. I think it's actually cheaper than Quen, which we'll talk about. Yeah, I got Quen 3 in here. So it creates the run, but again, runtime errors. Again, I'm sorry, it's a different one. The problem is with Minimax 2.7, it doesn't connect into the market data. So it's not out of the gate collecting market data when it connects into my server, and then it's that server that will download the data. So there's some kind of broken connection between the generated code in the bot versus into the server. So that doesn't work. As I said, I don't have this problem with Codex, so you'd think it would be identical, like at least to be able to get to that point. And then we got, let's say, talk about Gemini from Google, Gemini 3.1 Pro. It just failed to create in the bot. My experience with using code for Gemini, usually the code is very watered down. That's all I could say. So Gemini is definitely out of contention there. As I said with the Claude 4.6 for Sonnet, very slow. It could create it, but it's very slow, so I just give up on that. And it's kind of expensive as well for what it generates. The other one that I thought would be pretty good was GLM 5. I've tried GLM 5.1. That didn't work at all, but I got a little farther with 5.0. Maybe with this major release, generates runtime errors. So the code's not that great. And then, of course, is the famous Quen. The Quen looked good. It can create the bots. It can connect into the market data server. No problem there. But generally, with Quen, a lot of what it creates is not profitable. So if you had to choose out of the open source free stuff, out of the Chinese models, the Quen seems to be the most promising. And I have not tried out the Quen 3.6, but I would probably wait for the next Quen coder to come out, and I don't know when that comes out. But Quen out of the Chinese models probably look most promising, but for now, I'm not going to be going through this experiment again, especially with Claude. It's too expensive, and it fails. So that's my experience overall with a lot of these major models. I could talk about Microsoft Copilot. I got access to that for the Pro version. It's very expensive. It's not really worth pursuing. It's double the cost of Codex, so I don't see the point of that. If there's any other models I haven't tried or mentioned here, let me know. There were a couple other curious ones I was wanting to try out with the IBM Granite. There's no more access to that. People will ask about Manus. Manus is super expensive. When I last run it, it was pretty good, but that was over a year ago. Very expensive, and I think some of the more advanced models that are cheaper, even probably I could sit here and talk about the same with the Chinese models. They're probably as good. Maybe the Quen, I don't know. I'd have to do a comparison on that, but I'm going to be honest with you. For me to move off of what I currently have, which is, as I said, Codex 5.3 from OpenAI, I just don't see the point of that. As I said, if you got any comments or questions, let me know on this. Just so people know that I've watched the author of OpenClaw, what he developed, everything. If you watch the interview, there's an interview he did with Lex. I can't remember his last name. He's huge. Lex, whatever the podcaster is, he's big. He's one of the bigger ones. he did an interview with this author of OpenClaw, and the response was he tried Claude, but he just stuck with Codex to develop the Claw, and he said it's just more reliable, cheaper, and so on. So I guess right now the decent one for coding seems to be the Codex. So I don't know what more to say on that. But right now, as I said, the Anthropic, I'm having the price is one thing, but the billing is something else. I'm still using Claude Code with only Haiku because it's cheap, and I'm only doing it when I'm conversing with an MCP server. I've talked about that in the past, be it with an official MCP server from wherever I'm using it, my hosting provider. There's some other big ones as well that have official MCP servers. Apparently, if I do marketing with Google Ads, I could do that with MCP. I know that there's official servers, MCP servers for Microsoft with some of the Microsoft services like Office 365. I don't know if you guys know Clarity and GitHub. So I guess I may start using those MCP servers as well, and working with Claude Code for that in VS Code. So I'm using the Claude Code extension in VS Code. That's my stack, and it seems to work great. It's fairly cheap. And on the other hand, I've said before, the hand coding I'm finding has kind of died off. And what do I mean by that? I think if you're hand coding versus interfacing with a code base in native English and just asking the MCP to do your stuff for you, it generally can do quite nice. Hello, Crossicity here. Okay, I know I've talked to you before on email and Discord. If you guys got questions, let me know right now on whatever topics. That's including you, Critosity as well. Generally, we can get up to 10 people on this at once. I don't see the signs of our regulars here because they haven't commented yet if they do. But if you got questions or comments, let me know. I'll be happy to answer whatever you got. One thing I will say right now pertaining to how things are working, two big things I can mention. With the latest session of dynamic bots that get generated for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 days, there's been no profitable trading bots created at all. With Codex 5.3, I'm able to generate trading bots, but none of them are profitable. And when they don't make money, they lose, and they lose big. So I'll never put those against a live trading account in the futures market with a CME. But I will definitely, when they're profitable and they show to be profitable, I'll definitely do that. So this is the second thing I've done. I've been doing this kind of tech stack for the last month, okay? Where, as I said, here's the architecture. It's not simple, but I'll try to make it simple. So we have rhythmic market data coming in, and that's also the platform you'd use for your execution, your orders. So as I said before, no different than interactive brokers or a lot of the major trading brokers and platforms out there, they only allow one connection at once, outside of TradingView, but at once. And as a result, you have to develop like this gateway, a hub, a server that will interface with all the rhythmic market data in futures and options, and then be able to connect into client trading robots that, again, as I said, are dynamically created by AI based upon news events. And as I said before, I can create between 9 to 13 trading bots for each session I run this batch against live news. And I've got 30 sources of news. I've been doing that for a full month, 2 months maybe. Works pretty good. So now I'm at a point where I'm looking for a process to look for those trading bots that are profitable. So what I did was I went through up until mid-March, so last month, which bots have shown profit over that last month. Now, to give you an idea, for every consistently profitable bot or strategy, I have to go through at least 50 of them to find one consistently trading bot, and I would even say 1 out of 100. Okay, so I've done that, and I've gone through that whole process for the last month, and I have now 14 different trading bots that are profitable. So because of the way the markets have been since this invasion with Iran, not invasion, but war with Iran, obviously the markets aren't popping like they used to last year. So it's harder to trade and make profit. So there's very few market instruments or asset classes that are actually making real money in equity space. So that's including S&P, NASDAQ, and even the Russell. So as a result, there was one bot that showed profit, but that was under special conditions. So that was the only out of 14 bots that I was able to find that was profitable. The one instrument that had the most profit out of these 14 were Bitcoin. And the one that was consistently profit was an arbitrage strategy between Ethereum and Bitcoin. And that doesn't seem to be dependent on performance of news or something that drives it. So that was probably the one bot that I saw that had the most occurrences of profit. There were a few other Bitcoin bots that showed profit. So Bitcoin, quite surprisingly, was the most profitable of them all. Another one that was quite good was Gas, RB. That one was very profitable. That could have, if under the right conditions, that can trade like high frequency trading, and that could do really, 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 really well. I was pretty surprised by that one. Another asset class was there's aluminum. There was Canadian dollar, some gold, a little bit of gold, and there's another one for silver, all directional longs for silver. That one looked pretty good, but these were under specific conditions. So there's probably one or two more asset classes or instruments that I could go through that would show some profit. So what I'm planning to do, well, I'm already started it in the last few hours, is I've launched those 14 bots, and some of them should be able to trade overnight and see which ones are profitable. And once they show consistent profit and very high winning ratio, some of them were not 100%, but over 90% winning, which were really good. So I'm testing these now, and then it's changed my mindset. So if I'm able to find a few of those 14 bots that are consistently profitable and potentially are high winning ratios, those are what I'll go with. I will go with live trading with confidence, knowing that these work under whatever conditions. So that's the first thing. So what I've been doing up until this point in trying to get these bots, see which ones are profitable or not, I will be running two sets of bots. Ones that are profitable, trading against live money, and another set every day to see which ones are profitable, test them, and then once they're profitable, I put them in this fleet of bots that are consistently traded against live money. So that's how it is. And I'm architecting my Python project based around that scenario. I mean, I would have to do it this way anyhow because of that one connection into Rhythmic, because that's all I have. I mean, there's different ways to get around it. When I get really serious, I can have two subscriptions, what I have now with the current Rhythmic subscription, so I could get a second dedicated subscription for, let's say, testing, and a second one for live trading. So I may go down that path. And I've already kind of talked about the options as well, which is where the real profit is. But as I said before, you have to have a fairly large account for that. I said I think you're probably in the neighborhood of probably 200, a quarter million to do real live options trading successfully. But I think once you find certain conditions, you could do pretty good with that. So that may take quite a bit of time to get to the way I'm going and way I'm potentially growing. But that's where I'd like to go. So once I get the two subscriptions going, I'll probably have to get a third one for options. That's what the AI told me weeks ago when I was bleeding money to get that development done. But that's been done. So that's where we're at. So I may have 3 or 4 different subscriptions for, and this is just for the CME. I'm also seeing trading opportunities potentially with Brent crude. Obviously, depends upon how this war goes. And I'm also, because I'm only able to see me, but I'm also missing out on Brent crude and dollar. And I think the other one is there's VIX and there's VIXX. The other one's on ICE. So Euro dollar DXY is on ICE. BZ, which is Brent crude, is on ICE, and then I believe there's VIX and then there's VIXX on ICE. And as I said before, months ago, if you want to make money when the markets get really bad, you want to be in VIX because you can see that on your financial charts. When things go really bad and volatility kicks in, VIX can do like 10, 12% daily moves on bad days. So I'd like to see some kind of bot to trade that under certain conditions. So there's that. So I'll have to get another subscription for ICE as well. So there's going to be multiple data feeds and execution feeds to accomplish all this. But right now, I'm probably going to have to get at least a second CME data feed. And when I say data feed, it's also execution as well. Because I'm really pushing my limits with what I've got already when you have 12 bots running. We got our first question. Okay, so Kratos City asks, my main question is about bots to run against futures bot firms. I'm hoping somebody on here can also provide what I'm about to say. Have you put any experience and would that be possible? Okay, so let me explain about, I'm not going to name particular trading prop firms here because of legal liability. But generally, from my experience, there are lots of class action lawsuits against these firms. The problem is when you put money in, you have certain rules to get a payout, and that's the dangerous part. Because if you start to question the payout, if you do or you don't get it, because you have to meet a number of conditions, which is basically not good because they're being accused of as a Ponzi scheme. And you can go online to YouTube and check them all out, specific ones. So that's that on that experience. So they're not positive and they're, as I said, looked upon Ponzi schemes. Would you ever release your bots? What do they give internet of internal yield? The yield is hard to say because it depends upon market conditions. Right now, the ones that I've mentioned that are profitable, I usually run for like 2 days, and I've never really put a lot of emphasis on the returns because, well, I'm just trying to develop a end-to-end workflow. So I didn't put a lot of effort into looking at the returns themselves. But now I'm going to be fully doing that now because I've got past that stage where everything's working, everything can be stable, and that's where I put the focus now is on which trading bots are profitable. And the thing is, I'll be able to give you a much better answer on what the typical daily profit would be, but I'd probably need to measure that over the next few days or even a week. To like I probably may do a webinar like this one next week on that specific topic, because I am now focusing on a lot of profitable trading bots. So I'll be able to give you a better answer on that next week. I think that's probably the most logical thing to focus on next week. Now, would I ever release the actual code? I've thought about this. For me, I know you just kind of came back on and maybe missed out a lot on the year. If you go to my website at hftcode.com, you'll see the sample code. I call them code bases now, all in Python. So they're similar to what I'm doing right now. I am using rhythmic data and order execution. So a lot of the top trading firms, prop firms are usually using rhythmic. Okay, that's where rhythmic gets a lot of their commissions from, is through prop firms. So most prop firms are going to use rhythmic. So I'm using that as well. So that's one big advantage there. So when it comes back to will I release code, because I have a code base available on the hftcode.com, that's where you start. That works. Okay, I'm getting people ordering this thing, and I haven't received any complaints yet about it. So I'm assuming it works. There's tons of PDF manuals in there to help you out. I've got a bunch of videos that can help you out and direct you on how to use this thing and what it can do. Because once you have the code base in place, and if you're using Claude, you can just use native English to interface with the code base. And that's what I'm currently doing with Rhythmic. So, for instance, this is what I should also mention here, which is important. When I'm running bots, a fresh set of bots from a fresh set of news, there's a couple of things I do now. First one is I check to make sure, and I natively put this in the AI as a prompt. I say, are my bots connected to live market data with Rhythmic? And it'll come back and say, yes, no, here's why, fix it. And I just say fix it, and I'll get it eventually working within 2 prompts. Now, this is a new thing that I've been doing over the last week. When they're running, and I know they're losing money, and I know they're trading, and I know they're losing money, I'll ask it, why am I losing money on this particular bot? And again, I'm using native English, asking that to the AI, and this is all in Claude Code, and it comes back, and I'll analyze the associated log, and it'll say, well, based upon the log activity, your stop loss is too tight, and your stop loss is too early, and you're kicking out, and blah, 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 blah. So it'll give you an explanation in detail why the bot is failing. So based upon all that, you just turn around and say, hey, improve it, make it profitable. So it will go out of its way and generate a new version of that bot, a duplicate, with improved trading logic in it to hopefully get you to a point where you're actually making money. And from my experience doing that for the last few days, it will definitely reduce a lot of the losses. But when you get a situation where you have a winning bot and it's winning a lot, you want to encourage that because it makes quite a bit. It's rare, but it can happen. So you can. What I'm saying is you can use the native English prompting. You don't have to be a coder on it, and the AI will update those new versions for you. So if you try doing that with this hftcode.com code base, it works, but the thing is, it's specifically built for interactive brokers. And interactive brokers, you can do the live trading with it if you want, and all the interfacing with the interactive brokers trader workstation. So that should work as is right now if you wanted to get it. Now, the next question becomes, why am I not interfacing that with Rhythmic? As I said before, the problem with Rhythmic is their terms of service. Their terms of service are so strict when it comes to API usage, which I'm using to develop these things. I can't share it. I can't talk about it. I can't go into details about it because the terms of service prevents me from doing that. That's the problem. So if you want to get up and running today and doing futures and options, I could and would recommend going with interactive brokers because they don't have that restriction in their terms of service. That's the best approach I can give you right now with interactive brokers. So you say I've tried, it works, but used a lot of tokens of my Claude AI. Yes. As I said before, it depends upon what you're using. There's 3 tiers in Claude when it comes to the modeling. And I've suggested this before, and it's number one I'm suggesting. There's 3 tiers of models from Claude. Actually, there's a 4th one that's not publicly released yet. There's Opus, which is the high-end one, which is very expensive. There is Sonnet, which is the mid-tier. That's still very expensive. Then there's Haiku. For this sort of stuff we're dealing with basic prompting and modifying trading bots through native English, the Haiku is good enough. So if you're using Claude Code or even the Claude desktop, I would always recommend, depending upon what you're wanting to do, but if you're trying to do the Python or any coding base for, let's say, bots in trading, go with Haiku. It's much cheaper. That's what I would recommend because you'll save a boatload of money. And the only time, if you really had to and forced to, and Haiku can't solve your debugging or your bug, then you move into what I call the big guns, the Opus. Okay, then you can allow Opus to go through your Python code using the data, using the logs, and you can specify where does the problem lie. And it's pretty good. It's actually really good. So to pay for the high cost of that is worth it because I don't have time nor patience to do debugging anymore now that I'm using this way of interfacing with coding with native English through prompting. So the only time I'd probably recommend using Claude is for debugging. But if you're just general prompting, you would probably go with Haiku. And if you want to generate a code base, like when I say code base or scaffolding to build out your basic entire system, you'd probably want to do it with Haiku if it's going to be in Claude Code. And then when you need to, you would maybe go with Haiku. Now that depends, okay, and it also depends on your coding skills. If you're an accomplished coder, I'd probably recommend going with Haiku at the beginning. But if you're really like brand new and you're willing to spend the money, I would use Opus for that. And you let Opus do the scaffolding for you. Go back to Haiku to run, to test. Try to debug with Haiku. And if it's still not getting anywhere, then you may have to go with Opus. Okay, so I just want to mention that. Okay, so with Claude, I'm not saying I'm a Claude expert. From what I'm seeing, if you're going to just use Claude or Anthropic exclusively, I had multiple AI results tell me that you need to budget between $300 to $800 a month to use Claude exclusively for this sort of thing. $300 to $800 a month, US. So I'm paying $300, and I can tell you without a doubt, I have been able to go through $300 worth or $150 worth within 2-3 days. But that's different because, as I said, I was doing heavy debugging and whatnot with this option code and the option chain stuff, because that is pretty sophisticated stuff. I'm not bragging here. Right? The Claude could do it. It's very expensive. So he says, yes, I use Opus, and the Claude bot costs $18 per month roughly on a yearly plan. It stops every 5 hours. Yeah, if you want to get serious, you're gonna have to. I hate to say, you're gonna have to amp it up. When I started doing this, I was at 60, and I blew through that and this is different models, different providers. I blew through that within a few days, and then for a while I was at 100 and $60 a month US. And then I still was spending $30 a day in AI to do stuff. And I went with just last month, the first month now, at just under about 300 US. And I have 1 month's worth left. And it renews, I think, May 5th. So I've well used over half in a few weeks. So, yeah, AI is going to be very expensive. But that's why you want to use a code base, a working code base. And for what I've got, if it's with interactive brokers, you'll save a lot of money right there because it works. And you can actually work off of that with the PDFs and have it, and when you run it, generate logs. And with the logs, you can reduce your cost by providing logs, working sample code, and it will reduce your usage or your utilization with AI a lot, like immensely a lot. That's what I do. But depending upon how much data you provide it as well, that can add up too because it's got to go through whatever you're providing it as an attachment. And the thing is, you want to try to minimize that as possible. So it just really boils down to how you prompt to save money. So yeah, 5 hours, like the $20 plan for this sort of stuff, definitely won't cut it. But the thing is, once you get it working and working with it like like native English, man, you don't want to go back to. I haven't looked at hand coding honestly for weeks. But everyone says, oh, it hallucinates. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen hallucination at all in at least a month, maybe 6 weeks. And if I do see hallucination, it's because it's with one of the cheaper models. But the higher end, more advanced models, they don't seem to do that at all. So it continues. We get 6 months free on the Max plan if you make a repository on GitHub. Oh, I didn't know that. 6 months free on the Max plan, but is that 6 months free of the Max plan allocated amount? Like you're gonna get 6 months of credit for the Max plan? If that's the case, that's pretty good. But I'm going to be honest with you. The problem is I do question the Anthropic billing. In fact, I'd say I'm at a point where I don't trust it. The Max plan is $200 a month. Yeah, but that's not the Max plan. That's the starting price with the Max plan. But there's no. I think you can there is a parameter you can put in Claude code where you can put a maximum, like you can cap it, so it won't go beyond your 200 if that's the parameter you use. Because a lot of people that are starting with it, they get addicted to it, and they could get a bill of well into the thousands because they're not monitoring or they don't cap their account with the maximum amount that they want to have spent. And you have to be very careful with it because if you're just providing it very generic questions, it will cost a lot of money, and it comes down to a lot of waste as well, because you're using the AI to do all the work, but that becomes a problem because it's too much for it, and you're kind of, hate to say, you're wasting tokens on it as well. So it really comes down to what you provide it as data and what you provide in the say data, and if you're also going to use code as well, and you can use that as a well, you don't have to do anything, because if you're doing it from within VS Code with Claude Code as the Claude Code extension, it will automatically scan your project for you. So that's a good thing. It's just a matter of finding the happy balance, really. But Claude is okay, but I wouldn't go out and do the scaffolding or building a code base from zero. I would probably find a working code base to work from, and then provide that code base so that Claude can work off it. It's more efficient. And you got to make sure that the code base, whatever you're working with, actually works and it has proper documentation. Because if it doesn't have proper documentation, the AI is going to kind of try to guess what the code's doing. Whereas if you have really good documentation, like with what I have on the HFT code, it's precise, exactly code you want. Plus, there's coding breakdown and blah blah and README, exactly what the AI is supposed to do. I have my strategies that are open source. Well, if your strategies are open source, which is fine, the problem is that are they profitable? Is number one. Number two, the other thing is the market conditions because of, like, for instance, over the next 24 hours, a lot of there's going to be a lot of negative, unpredictable volatility in the markets over the next coming days because of this war thing, and da da da. So I could go on about that, but it's a challenge right now for trading. I just got my report on my portfolio. It's not making probably up to 1 or 2%, but I'm not losing money. And it's hard conditions because, as I keep saying, the easy money of just sitting in the S&P 500 or Nasdaq or the Nvidia's just up it goes, and you don't have to worry about it. Those days are pretty well done, and we're already moving into a completely new world order now, where they're saying that the petrodollar's gone and blah blah blah. So it's like a completely new market conditions, but nobody knows what's what. Okay, so with this that you're mentioning, you're using it on NinjaTrader sessions. The good thing about NinjaTrader and you're using that code, that platform's popular enough where you can, part of your prompting, I would recommend is to attach the actual source code as well with your prompting. And then the AI, obviously if it's Claude, it will be a lot more efficient in the code. And if it's got the documentation, proper commenting, you should be fine to keep those costs fairly low. Oh, not Ninja. Oh, I'm sorry. That was NinjaTrader. No. Okay. Well, whatever it is, if it's popular enough, like TradeStation, obviously, TradingView, MetaTrader, the more popular trading platforms, there's pretty good code bases with it. Up until about 4 months ago, I tried to do the same thing with MotoWave, which is not that popular. It had some context that you get out of it, but it's just not popular enough compared to the other platforms I already mentioned. So there's that. If anybody else got any questions or comments, let me know. I know some people like to lurk and learn and all that. As I said earlier, if you're trying to replicate what I'm doing through open source, some of the more what they call frontier models, the open source models, I don't know if I can sit here and say they'll work. Okay. For instance, if you're using DeepSeek 4 when it comes out, I think the open source version will not be that great for this type of work. I couldn't imagine DeepSeek, the provider, going out of their way, providing one of their better models for free. I think they may strip down a lot of the coding or a lot of the response or output that comes out of the AI responses is going to be really watered down. Okay. For instance, I've seen it already. I've worked enough with Gemma 4 versus Gemini 3.2 Pro. The experience with the same prompt, same data, same everything, I can easily time out Gemma in no time. It's not hard to do. But with Gemini, I don't experience that at all because it's a paid AI. So, as I say, you get what you pay for is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so MWKQS360 asks, welcome. What options data provider? I see some charge $2,000 a month. The one you're probably referring to that might charge $2,000 a month is Data Bento. That's data only, okay? I am using Rhythmic. And that's usually, it's one of the more popular ones. It's either Rhythmic or CQG. I'm using Rhythmic. Right now for the data, I'm paying about $40 US. For the API access, I pay an additional $100. That gives me not just data, but it also gives me the order capabilities as well. But you have to be hooked up properly to get proper support. You have to be hooked up through a real broker, or a real futures broker. The one I'm with is EdgeClear. Fantastic. I've tried AMP. I didn't like it one bit. I looked at Optimus. They seem to be more of a Mickey Mouse. I mean, for the API and technology, they looked okay, but they just don't seem to have the resources of EdgeClear in terms of the personal touch. I just like EdgeClear. I've not had any problems with 1 minute, like one bit. And more people that have signed up with EdgeClear, they're happy. And then you use the Rhythmic as your data choice along. If you want to do API, you use Rhythmic as well. And as I said, that's giving you the orders capability. And that will include options as well. But as I said, I'm able to generate option chains. I'm able to generate what they call option chain discovery. I'm able to do all the Greek analysis with it. But I'm going to be honest with you, it is very, very, very data intensive. Very data intensive. The AI suggested I have to get a second dedicated Rhythmic connection for that. Now, I'm doing that across 10 to 12 instruments over a period of hours, let's say. Right now, as an example, I've got 14 bots running, but they're only futures. Okay, so I don't have to worry about that type of data connection. But if I was to say, okay, I want to add in the options with all the what I just said, option chain discovery and all that, it dies because it's through one data connection. It's too much data. Like just to get the ES, it's intense. Like there's a lot of data that comes through just to download 30 option chains, all the data, all the strikes, everything that goes with it. On top of, you got 10 other, let's say, trading bots fighting for that same data connection. So that's why I have to have it like separate dedicated data feeds and maybe separate order feeds as well for that, to handle that amount of data, because the throughput, it's intense. I wish I could give you better news on that, but definitely Rhythmic can handle it. It just depends upon how much you're willing to pay to get access to the necessary data feeds. And as I said before, with Rhythmic, you're actually getting real high frequency trading through, they have 3 different APIs for whatever programming language you want. And if you get really good and really lucky, maybe, for high frequency trading, real high frequency trading, that will give you direct access into the Aurora CME data center that's run by CME. I did say that, or in Aurora, Illinois. That's where the HFT action happens, on the CME, is in Aurora. Everything else is just, they call it HFT, but that's just marketing fluff. But you can get access to that through Rhythmic, and your account size would probably be, I would say, at least 500,000, because of all the extra data feeds you can get, all the hardware, and blah 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 blah. It's a very expensive process. Same question: is Rhythmic only futures options? No, there's no individual single stock. No, not at all. If you're going to do that, then yeah, I would go with Interactive Brokers. But if you're wanting to do options on futures, futures on options, yeah, that's what Rhythmic is. Nothing but, and no individual stocks, no ETFs, no equity. The only equity you get on futures and options and all that is just standard Dow Jones, S&P 500, NASDAQ, and the Russell for the U.S. And then you can get other access to the Eurex through Rhythmic. That's another data cost or subscription. You can get access to LME and all that. Again, that's all separate. But you can do it for sure. But right now I'm just doing CME because that's pretty well where the volume's at as well. And then you got the 5 other exchange. I think it's 5 exchanges that CME owns, like Comex, CBOT, Chicago Broker of Trades, NYMEX, so on and so forth. So it's a good cross section of major assets. And the other thing is, it all comes down to volume. Okay, You want to be where the volume is. So it's all the big, typical instruments that drive volume. So if you're trying to trade cattle or something small like hogs, the volume's not there. Not worth it to do automated trading because there's a lot of slippage when there's not enough liquidity or volume on those instruments, and so the trading opportunities is not there. Okay, who else got questions? So as I said, I got 14 bots I'm trying out right now, and these are the so-called profitable ones for the last month. Kind of gone through all the ones that are showing potential profit. I had to update them, update the forward contracts, blah, 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 see what happens. And if they show profit, then those are the ones I'm going to go with. Because right now with the market conditions, just look at the price of oil with what's happening. The Strait of Hormuz closes. Oil goes up. 2 hours later, they open. Oh, it drops down. I mean, it's up and down like a toilet seat. And it's really hard to watch that. And really for it to, even now, let me just say this. 2 weeks ago, I read out of the retail crowd how many traders dropped out. It was 1.5 million have dropped out up until 2 weeks ago. And then another news story came out where it's now 3 million have dropped out. So it's doubled in the last 2 weeks because a lot of people, retail traders, have dropped out of trading because it's too complicated now. And as I said, when it comes to my standard investment fund for ETFs and stock, it's not performing. I'm getting, if I'm lucky, maybe 2%, 3%. And these guys are good, really good. So that's how hard the markets are right now. What kind of data using for options, just option chain or trades or robo? Oh, I see. TCBBO or CBBO. It's right off the option chain. That's it. So there's no, I think when you use third-party providers, no, it's the raw option chain. And then I have part of the strategy that's, again, dynamically created. That there's an option component created for it. And then what it'll do basically, and I didn't really push it because I couldn't push it. But what I do is, just to walk you through the logic, is it goes through the news, and the details on the news is very important. I put out a video on this. The difference between this LLM generating news and that LLM generating news. The one that works the best for this is, as I said earlier, Codex. All the other bots or other LLMs are not that great. Codex is very good for it. Claude can be very good for it, but for the price and the speed, I find Codex is the best. So that's what I'm using. So then I'm also using Codex to generate the actual script, the actual code for that strategy. When I add in options, it's too complicated because originally how I designed it, if I have 12 trading bots, 10 of them are trading a futures contract plus an options contract, or it could be multiple options. If it's a put and a call combined, like a hedge, what I originally wanted to do was to analyze all of the associated chains for each option, and then go through that, look at each strike, and then find with it chose Black 76 equation to generate what is the best chain plus strike to use to make a projection off of. So that right there was so intense that it just bonked out. And then you have 10 other bots doing the same thing. Every minute, every 10 minutes, I try to stream it. No go. I could probably put it on a GPU and probably could get away with it, but it would have to be a pretty intense GPU. Anyways, so because of that, and it just bonked out, meaning it just crapped out, it just didn't do anything. It just errored out. So the only way I could get around it as what I did was generates the news, generates the strategy or bot for a particular instrument. So let's say it's oil, let's say. In order for this to work as is with the hardware I have, it would just do a snapshot of all the option chains and then work off of the one strike for the most optimal chain. And there could be 10 chains for it to go through, and it would use that snapshot on that chain as long as the bot's running, which is not great, but it's still kind of technically half-assed option chain trading, but it's not ideal. Okay, not in the way that the professionals do it with a heavy duty GPU rig. So yeah, that's how I work it, and it's just working with the option chain provided through Rhythmic, and it came to a point where I just gave up on it. And as I said, the only way I can get around it is to get a piece of hardware with heavy GPU capabilities, like in the thousands of dollars, which I'm right now not willing to spend because, as I said earlier, you need to have a large trading account for this. To do it successfully, I would recommend you probably need a $250,000 trading account to really take advantage of this. It's like trying to kill a fly with a sledgehammer. So just keep it simple and the balance of my account small, and really it's tiny, 1,500 as I said. It's just trading futures and that's it. And I'll be also starting with micros because I'm not going to go all in and potentially lose. I'd rather go in very tiny amount, see it work, and it's all about workflow. And if the workflow is showing consistent profit, then I move up from micros and maybe do from 2 strategies live at once in parallel. I'll do 3. So that will go from $1,500 in the account to $5,000 because I have to include the margin requirement and all that. And if I get really, really good, I'll gladly put it up to 15,000, 20,000 when needed. And I know it works and it's working consistently. So that's really important to know. I would never go all in to any form of futures or option trading, especially now with the markets they are now, and just, go all in like in a casino and lose it all. It's not worth it. I would rather just start tiny in the micro, and as I said, scale it up as it's proving to be profitable, which I think I'm at now. Hopefully, I keep saying that, but I'm now testing only the profitable trading strategies. Wow, that's a big answer there. Hopefully, I'll answer a lot of other future questions. If you guys got questions, let me know. Comments. Almost an hour now. I don't mind sticking around, as I keep saying. I think our last one was an hour and a half. The longest I've done was 3 hours. So I know some people are from Europe, UK, and they got to go to sleep and have some sanity in their life. I get that. But if you got comments or questions, let me know. I've talked about the different LLMs which work. In a nutshell, the only one that I trust that works consistently, that's affordable, in a nutshell, is Codex. The Chinese ones, if I was to choose one that's kind of getting there, I'm going to wait for the next Max Coder version, is Quen. And I'm sure we're going to have a Max Coder version hopefully soon. Because Quen can be surprisingly good, and it can be surprisingly not bad, but surprisingly disappointing. But of all the Chinese ones that generate code and generate it flawlessly, is Quen. All the other ones fail. So, from what I'm seeing with what Alibaba's doing, they're putting a lot of money into Quen to compete against something like Claude, because I think they start to realize the revenue that could come out of it, and it's really cheap compared to Claude. So our prior questioner, thoughts on using options data to predict earning report outcome. Now, I don't know if you mean for stock or for futures. Either way, options is fantastic. And I've said this before because you can use options to predict data because you have so much to work with from options via the options chain. You and open interest and Greek analysis are your two big factors that you're able to see what's going on in the whatever instrument you're watching. If you're, because I'm just going to put a blurb out this. Tonight's the last night of this quant analytics membership because I'm going to be adding another price increase soon, so it'll double probably within a month. But right now it's $67 a month. Tonight's the last night. If you want to get a trial, jump on it now, quantlabsnet.com. And then you can see the reports that I'm about to talk about. When you look at the trading reports that this thing generates as part of the news gathering, it does futures. But where the value to be a really successful long-term trader, from my experience from reading these things, is you read what's happening in the option space. As I said earlier, depending upon what LLM you're using to generate this PDF, there's different types of reports that get generated. Same process, different type of PDF report. So when I'm using Claude or one of the Chinese ones, like Quen is a good one, the report is good and it's easy to read. It's easy to read exactly what a firm's doing or professional firms are doing, the big boy money, okay? Basically following the hot capital order flow, you can see what they're doing. Whereas using now Codex, it's different. Because now you get to see with numbers and targets and the risk that they're putting on exactly what they're doing on the hedging side or if there's an arbitrage opportunity. And that same report will also tell you that they may be using other correlation pairs to measure risk. So for instance, people go, well, there's Bitcoin as a good example. Okay, so let's say you have Bitcoin on the spot market and that's all you trade on. Well, you're going to lose money, okay? And you're going to lose money hard because you're trading Bitcoin without really any sophisticated knowledge. That's the smart money we're talking about. Whereas Bitcoin moves now because it is a major alternative, just like gold, but it moves for different reasons. So if gold is quote unquote manipulated, not moving, they may look at Bitcoin. They may look at the combination of Ethereum and Bitcoin. Do we put money into Ethereum or do we put money into Bitcoin as one example? Another is that they're going to use Bitcoin against gold. They're going to look at Bitcoin against oil. They're going to use Bitcoin against US dollar. They're going to use Bitcoin against other currencies. And they're going to use these type of relationships to figure out if Bitcoin is worthy to invest into, and the only way they can really truly measure it is through the options market. And that's what 80% of the big billion-dollar funds and how they trade. And that is what drives Bitcoin. And they can do this in minutes. And some of the reports come back and saying these firms are doing this. And these are the big firms, BlackRock, you name it. And that's just one example of Bitcoin. And they do the same sort of thing when it comes to oil specifically, or are they going to go oil, diesel? Are they going to go into Brent crude or a WTI? Because there could be relationships there where U.S. oil is doing better than international oil. They could be also looking at heating oil as an alternative. And there's different grades of energy that they're using right now to measure built around this war. Another example is when I think it was Israel that bombed one of the biggest smelters in aluminum in Iran. Guess what happened? Aluminum went up. So this war is impacting lots and lots and lots of different instruments out there outside of the equity space. That's why macro is doing better than micro, for sure. And in the currency space, another great example is look where I'm in Canada. Our Canadian dollar is a resource-based currency on pretty well oil. So wherever oil moves, Canadian dollar is impacted by that, and somewhat even the Mexican peso and the Brazilian real. Those currencies are doing pretty decently right now compared to all the other currencies. And yes, you can trade them, not through the CME, but you can trade them. So understanding these kind of movements through these reports that I speak about gives you like a huge edge over everybody else, because you're not thinking like the retail trader. You're going into a smart money mindset. I don't want to say what 90% and how the market looks at, but we'll just say retail traders. And that's why they're all dropping off in the millions. And as I said, over the last few weeks, it's doubled. So those that survive long term in this space will understand how institutions are assessing the situation in the markets. And it's so volatile. I sometimes run these scans on news and get new bots generated every few hours if I want. So I can do that. And the markets can change. Like today was another example. The markets were up earlier today. Then we heard about the news coming out of Iran with this peace negotiation. Everything turned down. So the market regime changes so fast, and the next day it could change again, going on the upside. And that's why I think retail traders are dropping out like flies, because they can't keep up with these changes. You cannot trade as an investor. It's proven. I'm only getting 2% on my portfolio right now. I'm happy. I'm not losing money, but I think knowing how the markets work and trading a portion of your portfolio in the short run based on news and volatile news, you could do pretty good, especially if you can automate it. And that's one of the other criteria I looked at with these different providers. How long does it take to create these things? And Codex is pretty fast. It takes about half an hour, which is pretty fast. Quen is blitzkrieg fast. Like Quen is amazingly fast. It can do the job in 15 minutes, and the code's pretty good. So that's what I like about Quen. And I'm just waiting for the next big coder release. I might try it out when it's worthwhile. But I might try out they just brought out a new one of Max version of it. So I might try that out and see how it goes. But that's how important the options market is now, especially now, if you're wanting to stay in this market over the long run. And I put up on my LinkedIn, people in bull markets can make money, but if you're in a bear market, you can make a lot more. Okay, we are in definite severe bear market. So the opportunities are there. If you have the right processes in place, like I'm hoping to have with these dynamically created bots off of news, I should be in good hands. And I've been working on this for 3-4 months seriously now and spending quite a bit of money on it. But I'm pretty confident where it's at now. And as I said earlier at the beginning, I've got now 14 bots that are currently being tested right now in the markets. So we'll see how that goes. And hopefully I'll have better results this time next week. So prior person asks, I'm using option data predict earning reports on stocks. How many predictions does my model have to be right? Be good enough for live trading. 50 earning report right now in a row. There's nothing wrong with using options market. When I use stocks, what I did was, I can only tell you to use forward-looking data, not current, not past. The best components for stock analysis for forward-looking are two things. First are the earning calls. Okay, when you have a stock or a company that issues a earning call in a quarter over the next year, and they have projections on how much they think their stock will be at, those are the kind of stocks I'd want to stick with. And the other big one that you can use for forward looking is what stock analysts are doing. So you can pick up data providers that will provide that for you. So those are the only two sets of data I look at for just looking at stocks. Again, earning call, guidance, I should say. What does the guidance say? If a company is not offering you guidance, that means that the company does not feel confident in their outlook. If the outlook is not there and they're not putting guidance on where they think their stock price is, don't trade it because you're kind of like guessing. We're like, no different than they don't want to put out a guidance call because they know if they get it wrong, they're going to get punished. So they don't give it. But there's still some companies out there that are probably growing like weeds right now in bad markets, and they're confident with their place in the market, in their industry, and they're growing fast. So those are the companies you want to look for. And at the same time, those same type of companies will offer you what the stock analysts are doing. Like, fairly large, from large companies that do analysis, like all the banks, hedge funds, and whatever else. And if they're saying strong recommend to buy, then yeah, that's what I would go with and do that kind of measurement. Because anything else, it's guessing, and you can't use technical analysis. Please, but I would use those three data points: guidance, what their stock price is going to be in the next 3 months, next year on a quarterly basis, and the other thing is to look at what stock analysts are saying, because that's 100% forward-looking. Without that, I wouldn't trade it. Now, when it comes to options as well, same thing as I said earlier. You still have open interest. You still have option chain. You can use all the same techniques. No different than futures as well. But the volume may not be there. I mean, if you're dealing with large companies like Apple and whatnot, okay. But if it's a smaller company, it may have the volume there, but it's hard to say because I haven't done it in probably a year. But that's what I did when I did the stock analysis stuff in the micro space. But I do know right now, being in the futures market as is, it's probably a lot more lucrative. And as I said earlier, I'm really surprised on the performance of Bitcoin. It's already starting to kind of perform now, but you could probably make a lot more developing a strategy or a bot under certain types of market conditions. And Bitcoin the last month has been pretty good, and call me surprised. Okay, I'm trying to front run the move before it gaps up or down. I positioned 20 minutes before the market close. Yeah, I think I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to trade outside of the amateur hour. So you're trying to trade on the open and the close where the volume is. I get that. And you're trying to stay 20 minutes ahead. And I guess you're using option data, chain data, I'm assuming. That can work, but are you trading the right stocks? Are you trading the right stocks that have the highest run-up potential? As an example, when the pandemic started in 2020, I started doing this type of analysis, and there are two companies that came about that were like moving a lot, and they were called Zoom. The other one's called NVIDIA. If I had hung on to those companies, especially NVIDIA, I'd be a billionaire. I'd be driving a Rolls Royce by now if I hung on to it and if I actually traded it. But if you do see certain companies that are moving very quickly up the ladder, like at one point there was Space Rocket and CoreWeave, another one. Yeah, what you're doing is fine. But if you were to follow what I'm doing and just kind of more invest it, yeah, you probably do pretty good. But that's kind of what I would do. But on the other hand, I should mention the reports that I put out. They do mention more ETFs. So, for instance, if a firm is going to do an arbitrage, they're going to measure an arbitrage, and one of those pairs will be typically an ETF. The other thing is sometimes it'll come back and say these are the industries that are moving quite well. And those industries lately have been processors like Intel, NVIDIA and the like, and still AI somewhat. And sometimes they mention the companies. So I may, at some point, add that into my interactive brokers if I see more of it. But I haven't seen a lot of movement in equities at all. So, for instance, here's something that you should really consider. If we know, like tonight, if we know that U.S. starts bombing again, we know oil's going to go up, and it's going to go up a lot. So that's right there is a classic signal that you should be putting money into energy. Futures contract it is. And if you want to leverage it and amplify it, the profit, you do options because that's a very, very predictable trade. So you could do that. And I think the probability is pretty strong. And the other thing that's very strong right now is if this continues the way it's going and there's no more ships getting out of Strait Hormuz, and I'm sure you already know about the days on supply for a lot of countries of like a week, let's say, of oil left for them, they're going to be put into a crisis mode and they're going to start rationing, blah, blah, blah. And the next big area that's going to move up a lot is going to be agriculture, food production. I'm seeing it already in soybean and a few others, but soybean seems to be the big one, and corn somewhat. So if you know these things, these are now predictable signals. And if you want to make the maximum amount, you'll be in the futures market for those products. On top of, if you want to do even better, you'll be in the options market. And that's a very, very predictable trade. And nothing else will be moving at all. You may get Bitcoin may move, but that's not predictable. But we're talking about predictable moves will definitely be energy and food production. Anything related around food. And the agricultural products like corn, soybean, wheat will move. So my question to you is, why are you trading stocks when it's not doing anything at all? And it's not anywhere predictable compared to what I just mentioned. Okay, so coming back to our question on earning report, like I bought or Oracle before the gap up on earnings. I sold too early. I scared to trade options. I bought shares instead. Yeah, because everybody else is buying shares. The insiders, the pros, the smart money will be buying the options for sure. And that's where the maximum opportunity is. Whereas if you're buying shares, you're kind of like being in the not smart money. So you'll do okay if the market, if that's Oracle, let's say, moves. But the thing is that predictable? You're kind of guessing, I would think. And as I said, I've just given two classic examples, what we know will most likely move in the next day. And if it continues, you just read the news, food production is going to go up. They're already talking about, I saw an article about lumber's on the move again to move up. You can trade lumber in the futures market. And there's a whole pile of other ones that you may not know about. Cocoa, coffee, these all move up. All predictable. So if inflation kicks in, where would you rather be? In the predictable markets that move up? And if inflation kicks in, it's a no-brainer for me. If the markets start to not crash, guess what will move? As I said, VIX, because the VIX, the volatility will kick in. And you can trade that on the futures market as well, and options market. And when they really move by volume, that's where the smart money goes. And then there's going to be somewhere, maybe gold, maybe silver. We don't know. But I think the big movers will be definitely energy and agriculture. So my question is, why aren't you trading those? And you could kind of trade ETFs in those areas. I just don't think you're going to get the maximum opportunity as well. I just wish I could give you a better answer on that one. Anybody else got questions or comments? Yeah. Because like I said, I got 14 bots I'm trading right now, and they should cover a lot of the big movers over the next couple of months. I do know there is, I think it's soybean, that's one of them. So if that starts to move, we'll catch it. Because I'll be hopefully live trading it. Or I have the capability because I have a profitable strategy when the right market conditions hit. And as I said, I think the two big leaders over the next, if this continues the way it is, and it escalates this war, energy will go up, and then in the next few weeks you'll start to see early signs, and it's probably already happening. Because as I said, there's corn, I'm not sure. It's ZC is a corn or soybean that's moving now. So I don't know why people would want to try and trade something else. I mean, that's the whole idea, is to make and maximize your profit. If you're too married in one instrument like Bitcoin, well, ask the Bitcoin bros where they're at now. If they didn't cash out when they should have cashed out, they wouldn't be working at McDonald's anymore. Unfortunately for them. And same with gold. And I think oil's had its big moves as well. But it could move up again if this thing gets really bad and they start bombing oil infrastructure. I read 2 days ago that Kuwait has stopped producing oil and energy. No more refining, no more oil supply. So that's another big country that's out. So it's news like that that makes you go, yeah, this is where you want to be if you want to maximize your profit. Anybody else got questions or whatnot? So here's a follow-up. If predicted, you look at options data, clearly someone knows the outcome. Earning report average moves 5 to 15% move that I traded. Well, the real question comes down to is, as somebody keeps telling me, the only judge out there is the markets themselves. Depending upon how you're trading, I don't need to know. But if you're trading and you're consistently in profit, then you're on something that's positive. But if you're kind of trading with this kind of methodology and it sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't, I think the same odds would be if you walked into a casino, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I would rather work with something that's a little more predictable and like top major headline news predictable. And we all know where this thing's going because it affects us all with the energy and potential food production, because it will have impact for sure. For sure. Anybody else got any questions at all? Comments? Appreciate you all being here, as I keep saying, hour and 22 minutes. Anybody else got questions, comments? I've talked about the models, which ones are good. I've kind of summarized them as well. Yeah, so right now, coming back to the topic of tonight, Codex, consistently good. It's affordable. It's not cheap, but it's affordable compared to Claude. And the other takeaway, and Quen's got potential. I'm just waiting for the next version. And those are probably one models or LLMs I would probably go with right now. This Claude 4.7 Opus, huge disappointment, and it's overly expensive. How many earning ports in a row to know if it's working, not just luck? I'm trying to be 100%. 100% is tough to do. What I would do is, when you're like, you need to build a scanner for the markets. You need to use market data, see which stocks are moving the most. Some of the patterns you'll want to look for. If you see a stock consistently moving over more than a week, that's the companies I'd be looking for. Now, right now, I don't know how many companies are moving like that. And you can easily build a scanner for the highest performing stocks, and that's the companies you want to focus on. And then you want to look for their latest earnings. And as I said earlier, are they giving you guidance? Are they giving, or other professional stock analysts reporting on these companies? And do they have strong buys, or at least majority buys as a recommendation? If so, that's the hype you want to know about if those particular stocks are moving and they move over the long run. If you're only working off a suite of stocks, they may be just average performers, or they could be basically money losers. I'd be only following the ones that are moving over a week and trending like that. I don't know if there's a lot out there that are doing that. There might be a few that last for a few days. And you got to base it off the latest earnings call. And sometimes, obviously, stocks can move up, that have a lot of hype based on news or whatever's driving it, and they're trading into into the earnings call. And sometimes some of those earnings calls can not be right, obviously, not 100%. So you have to use these patterns that you're looking for that are consistently high performers over a long run, and try to figure out, as I said, the forward guidance, looking for the stock price from those earning reports or from the guidance, and stock analysts, what they're saying from the big firms. Other than that, that's all I can really give you. And it does work in the right market conditions. But right now, I just don't know. Stock is not great right now. I could be wrong, but as I said, I've already explained why for the futures and options in future space. Anybody else got any questions or comments? If our prior person had any more questions, Krakatosity is out there if you've got questions. As I said, this is the only time I'm really making myself available on Tuesday nights like this. I will say this. I'm now testing what I'm seeing are profitable trading bots. 3 of them look pretty good from what I'm seeing, really good. I'll be testing them now. I've updated them. If the trading logic enables me to have continual profit, I'll be trading those. I'll be scaling up my account based around that. And if that continues, then I'll definitely be putting out the third-party verified trading account that I've talked about. And once I have that in place, then you can expect my fees to skyrocket a lot, because that's what I'm doing this for. So let's see what happens. That's all I can say. What is the best time loop? Trading every 5 minutes, 1 minute, 50 minutes, or on ES? If my model predict the next time frame. Well, I've tried many different time frames. I've streamed right now, my time cycle is 10 minutes, only because it's restricted by Rhythmic. Sometimes I stream, live stream. I could probably do that now again because I'm just looking at futures only. That can be pretty good. And when it comes to stocks themselves, I'd rather invest and not trade 5 minutes, 10 minutes, not even an hour, maybe every 4 hours. When I used to write for Seeking Alpha, I've said this before, the lowest you can go is every 4 hours. They do not allow you to go below that. So 4 hours might be the safer time frame. But what you're looking for are those stocks that are high performers, as I mentioned, based upon the patterns that I mentioned. So all this stuff about anything under 4 hours, is it beneficial? From my experience, probably no. Sorry. Now, if it's in the futures market or options market, the time frame can matter. If you've got a strategy that's profiting consistently, like 75% win ratio kind of profit level, yeah, you'd want to probably even stream it because you're going to maximize your trading opportunity. But you got to have a few things going on for you. You have to allow Rhythmic, in my case, allow that type of frequency of trades. I don't know the exact number for that because I haven't really tested it. But if you have a trading strategy or bot that's consistently profit, the time frame when it's, let's say, live streaming, that's when you want to do it because you're maximizing your profit potential. But if you're just trading stock, I generally get higher profit when I just standard invest, buy and hold. But as I said, the buy and hold days are done. Right now I'm sitting in US cash, and I'm probably doing better with that than trying to trade like on an hourly or 5-10 minute basis. Just holding in US dollar. It's easier too. because I think it was 2022. Like we talked about this in another stream a few weeks ago, where if you just sat when the markets went down, everything went down. U.S. dollar went up. Just sit in U.S. dollar. I mean, it's easier. You don't have to do anything, but you're still making decent money and decent return. So we may go into that same time period as well. If things go really bad, just sit in U.S. dollar. But on the other hand, with what's happening now with this oil thing, Iran wants to be paid in yuan. UAE now officially wants to trade in yuan. So what they're saying now is the petrodollar comes off, which means those same countries do no longer buy treasury, which helps the U.S. dollar and the U.S. government. If that no longer happens or even goes down, U.S. dollar won't be able to perform like as I'm saying. So maybe it might be better to be in an emerging market currency. Could it be yuan? I don't know. Check Mexican peso. Check the Brazilian real. See how it's performing. So there's that too. I wish I could give you better answers on the time frame when to trade. Now, I have talked about this before. If you're looking for a profitable strategy, you can trade. I have it on my code base, but it's very expensive, the expensive one. You could do the stablecoin peg. So you could do an arbitrage between USDC Circle, USDC Tether, or USDT Tether against the US dollar. You're making pennies of pennies. But if you have a large account, you want to consistently make a decent return, that's a good strategy to have if things go bad because it's not dependent on anything. It just performs based upon the dollar, no matter which direction it goes in. From what I've seen so far, that's the best strategy I've seen. And that came up 2 months ago, and I've tested it. I've tested it in, in one of the chains out, on one of the blockchains, the bit Uniswap. Works. And if you want to make good money, like $1,500 a month, on average, you probably lock up $50,000 US cash and trade that thing. You can get, on average, 12% return. Not bad for an income strategy, but that's a stable coin. So there's that as well. But that's a kind of high frequency trading strategy because there's no commissions. And there might be better exchanges to do that on. Binance, as an example, might be lower. I don't know, but the strategy itself, it's a very high winning ratio. I've coded it up, tested it, I've posted it. Whoever wants to trade it, willing to, we'll say, get access to it, it's there. It's all in Python, and it's been tested in simulation with Uniswap. And just so everybody knows that Uniswap is the largest no KYC, no AML exchange out there. I just see Mr. JDI's out there. How are you? Got questions? Let me know, my friend. I'm glad to see you're aboard. Remember, I always watch this live stream once it's ready in the next few hours to watch the early parts if you missed everything. Yeah, so if you're generating bots and trying to create dynamic trading bots, your trading model, your model that creates it matters. This is for JDI if he's missed this. And the two models for free, maybe at best, Quen. But there's some caveats to it because it's free. And the most reliable, if you're willing to pay, is Codex. I'm using Codex 5.3. And it's kind of quick as well. In a nutshell, that's what I basically said for tonight on the different LLMs. But other than that, we've talked about a whole whack load of stuff. Stock trading. Yeah, so that's where that is. Thanks for the likes as well for anyone who liked whatever I put out there. Yeah. I don't know, JDI, if you got any questions or MWQ. Okay, there's our first question. Don't know if you're to discuss this. Are you still having issues with the Claude tokens? Yes, I am. I should mention that as well. Claude 4.7 is, in this process that I've been using, is worthless, and it's very expensive. I do have questionable I have serious questions and doubts on the honest billing practices of Anthropic. For instance, I had no activity on my models or any AI usage Saturday, Sunday. None, zero. I didn't even go to my computer. And guess what? I got charged. Little charges, but I didn't use it. I'm like, why? So I just don't know. I don't know if I can trust it. OpenAI, it's consistent. I think OpenAI billing I probably prefer. Now, as I said, if you can go with a really good model like Quen, you're paying peanuts, and it's pretty good. GDI, I hit limits very quickly with Claude. Yes, we already had somebody mention that earlier in the questions. You might want to go through the replay or the relay and finding that. The $20 a month plan ain't going to work. If you're doing exclusively with Claude Code, you don't want to use the max because it might get discounts. But Krata City is still here. I'm in the UK and it's bedtime for me. Thanks, Brian. Amazing stuff. No problem. Join us again. I understand. We've had a few people join from UK and I know Ireland as well. But like I said, this video will be up in the live section on the channel. So you can watch it at your own leisure. No problem there. And I've got other ones as well on these topics. So coming back to Claude, I wish I could give you better answers on that. So a prior questioner, I used open code on VS Code, free model Kimi 2.5, and once I reach the limit, I use a VPN to get more tokens. Yeah, that could work. I'd probably use a VPN. I wouldn't go directly into any Chinese model. Like if you're going into deepseek.com, I wouldn't be doing that because who knows what they're doing. I mean, you've probably heard about what they do with TikTok. I don't know if you could trust any of the Chinese models directly. If you can go through like a open router or use Llama and build your own local set of models, home-based, and just run it off your machine. You could do that too. And you don't have to worry about these things. But just understand, obviously, you're not going to have the up-to-date models. As I said earlier, there's the open source version, and those are usually the frontier models, and then there's the paid models, the professional models. Those are the ones that I'm using. I also look into the frontier. The only one I may think of is Quen. That's it for now. But I don't know. Like I said, I've tried Gemma. Gemma was popular for a while, Gemma 4. And as I said, I can hit it, and it can just time out in the prompting. It's no good when that happens. And I could take the same prompt, put it into Gemini 3.1 Pro, no problem. And the Gemma, funny enough, the Gemma responses are probably just as good. But if you have a very sophisticated prompt, yeah, it'll time out because it just bonks out, as they say. Any of you guys got any other questions or comments? Oh, JDI's got them all. When do you develop strategies? Is the AI just constantly running to develop these? No. I couldn't do that. It'd be very expensive. I'd be having to sell my my soul for that. No, what I do is I just have a prompt, like a Python script that just does the whole thing end to end. And the script is called run all, funny enough. And as I said, it goes in, does the news, gathers the news, generates the PDF from the news, and then the AI, as I say, Codex, will go into that PDF and generate the trading strategies from the PDF. And I've put up quite a number of samples of those PDFs on my blog. So if you want to get a sample of that, let me know. I can hook you up with a couple of them. And I just did one last week. One of my long form videos showing you the difference between I think it was generated by Quen actually, or Claude, and it's easy to read, but the AI doesn't know what to do with it. And the bots that it generates from that versus the one that I'm back on, the old one, it works much better. So that's a factor there for sure. But everything's done through just a standard Python script because everything's in Python. Yeah, so that's simple as that. Now for you, JDI, just to bring you up to date, or for anybody else watching this, I'm hoping to go live. I keep saying I'm going to go live trading. Oh, anyways, let me go back to that. So I've gone back a month looking for potentially profitable strategies or bots. So I've got 14 of those. I've covered the different instruments that are make them profitable. I've updated them and I'm running them right now to see what's profitable. Some of them may work overnight, and if that's the case, then I may go with those as live trading. So that's what I'm planning to do. And three of them are very high win ratios. One has 100%. That may be because of market conditions at the time, but some of them are as high as starting 75, 80% win ratios. So we'll see how they perform. But I'll update the blog with that, of course. Let's see. Okay, where does HFT make most of the profit on futures? Is microsecond or millisecond or second? Well, if as I said before, if your trading account is not at least $500,000, you can make the most in nanosecond. That's basically what it comes down to. And when I say in the nanosecond, because everyone else is either millisecond or microsecond. So you're going to be competing against those operations. And those are going to be the big firms. You're all going to be trading in the same space. If it's going to be the Aurora data center, where a lot of the volume is, you'll all be competing in the same space. So the big ones that make the most money and where a lot of the instruments are crowded out because of this, you have to now get it down to nanoseconds, which is pretty hard unless you have really good FPGA. But that's where the money's at now. And some of them, as I said, it's built around cross exchanges. I've seen strategies. I've never talked about, well, I have talked about the old model that I dug up on. But you can definitely trade sub-second. Now, it depends on what you define as high frequency. If you're going to go down the path of the CME Aurora data center, or if you're going to do that one bot I mentioned about the crypto, that can kind of trade like a high frequency because it can do a lot of trading in number of seconds. But it's in pennies of pennies. But it's consistent. So there's that as well. So that trades, it just downloads chunks off the blockchain and then it makes the trades and says yes, no, and I'll do a trade and make a few pennies. And that's all it does. It just downloads block by block off the Uniswap blockchain for the two stable coins, as I talked about earlier. JDI, have you managed to find the best news feed for which provide the fastest data? Does the news feed sometimes show up after the markets react? No. Okay, it's hard to answer this first part of your question. As I said earlier, you want to watch probably my last two long form videos because I kind of go over this. It depends upon how this news feed PDF is generated. There's the readable one, which means that the strategies that are developed or bots that are generated from it are not that good. Whereas what I'm using now, going back to what I used to use, it's a totally different style of news that's generating the PDF. And that's very specific on targets. And it's very specific sussing out what a lot of the big firms are doing. And because of that, I get better code-generated trading bots because of that. And that's the difference. It's nothing to do with what's faster. It's what's better quality of how this PDF is generated. Okay? And that's also including options. Because I'm including options, I have better data insight to work from that for the future bots, if that makes sense. That's what's giving me edge, not the data of the news and the news source. It's the quality of the news and how it's generated. If you go into my 2 long form videos over that, you'll see what I'm talking about, and you'll get way better bots that have more opportunity. That's the difference. Speed of bots or speed of news and all that. At my current rate, it's not a factor, unfortunately. Do the news feeds sometimes show up after the markets react? No. Usually it's the other way around. If I generate a new, like if there's a news story, as an example, like oil, like today, if the markets are moving in a direction, in a positive, which they did, specifically in the equity, they're all fine. But if I had generated and ran my news.runall Python script with all the news gathering and the whole process just at the right time when the announcement came out of the peace agreement where Iran was not going to show up for the peace negotiations, if I caught that and I had a really good strategy or bot generated for that news item, that bot would have made big time cash. So it all comes down to timing of when the bot's generated. So generally, if you have a news item where it's very, very recent and you get a bot created for it, it can make money. So one of the ones that has done well with probably my best performing one of these 14 that show profit it's called aluminum disruptor or aluminum supply disruptor, something like that. So basically what it was when the news came out, Israel bombed the largest aluminum smelter in Iran, aluminum went up like crazy. So there was a bot created for that, and aluminum, it just went, like I'm not seeing any trading bot do that, where it was like 100 bots in profit. And that was a 100% winning ratio because of that. Now, I don't know if it was because it was recent news and a bot was created thereafter, and aluminum was moving up because of that news, and then the next day, if I ran the same bot, it probably wouldn't make the same amount. So it really comes down to market timing, really. Generally, there's other times, depending upon the bot, another profitable bot is Ethereum Bitcoin. That seems to be fairly consistent. So if the big firms are kind of like, okay, today we'll trade Ethereum Bitcoin, that strategy or bot can make decent money too consistently. That's one of the 14 bots that are more consistent that I'm seeing, but it depends again on timing. So if I was to say one bot to use, it'd be Ethereum Bitcoin, but that's not going to be every day. It's just certain times on frequency there might be a higher probability I can get profit from that, but I'm not going to get that every day. So it's all built around timing and what the big firms are doing. And again, that's all determined by hot capital order flow. So if a certain news item drives a certain instrument on profit, like I said, aluminum, then that's where the cash will go. I had another one where silver short, it blew up. So it depends upon a particular news event, a particular strategy is developed for it, and it will make money. So right now, it's hard to find a generic algorithm that will make profit all the time. The last 4 months, the only one that's consistently making money with a high probability, as I said, is that stablecoin peg arbitrage strategy that will work in Uniswap. That's the only one strategy that consistently makes money at a very high profit level. But as I said, it's coffee money returns. So if you have a large account, a large amount that you're willing to put out there on this particular strategy, you probably could get decent returns. And as I said earlier, if you're going to get, let's say, 80% return ratio, win ratio with it, and you put in 50,000, AI is telling me I could get back 1,500 a month. So if I'm willing to tie up 50K and get anywhere from 12 to 15% return each month, this is the greatest bot I've seen and coded and tested that works consistently. It's not a lot, but if you're willing to put some money, big money into it, you get some nice income from it consistently, because it's not dependent on anything like an exogenous thing, where it doesn't matter where the US dollar goes, because it's stable coins built around the performance of US dollar. Yeah, it can do quite well because it's a peg to the US dollar, and there's like penny of penny opportunities with it. So that's the best answer I can give you. That yes, there is a particular strategy that can make consistent, very small amount, high win ratio, but you want to make income from it, you need to put a large amount of cash into it. If you put in 5,000, you'll make maybe $100 a month off it. So it depends if you're willing to do that. So I wish I'd give you a better answer on that, but a lot of the profit's going to be driven by news events, and a lot of it's going to be driven by hot capital order flow, which is really volume from a news event. And as I said, the aluminum smelter getting bombed, yeah, aluminum's going up for a short period of time, and it's going to go up a lot. So if you get the timing on that right, yeah, and that's where I'm seeing more of the profit right now. And sometimes you may get the dollar move for unknown reasons, and you could make money off that. But again, you have to figure out, do you want to trade like that? It just depends which way you want to go. I don't know if I answered your question, JDI. Do the news feeds sometimes show up after the markets react? So the answer is no there. But what I was trying to say is that certain news events can drive profit on whatever instrument that news event is about. So tonight, as I said, we most likely see the whole complex around energy going up potentially tonight, or maybe over the 24 hours, because if the U.S. starts, its activities against Iran, yeah, energy is going to go up. And I've also mentioned the impact from that is the soft markets are going to go up too, because they impact, if there's no energy, the trickle-down effect, it'll start to impact food production. Soybean, corn, wheat may move up and profit. So again, those are predictable signals to where you could do quite well within those instruments. That's what I'm seeing right now. So right now it'd be energy top, and then over the next probably 2 months, and long term, if this does not get settled, yeah, food production is going to be the next big one that will perform. I hate saying it. And anything where there's inflation involved, again, I just got the signal today or yesterday about lumber moving up as well, because of this inflation. And you may get, obviously, food production and agriculture products will move up as well. Coffee, cocoa, what else is there that could go up? Just on inflation because of this war. That's where I'd rather be trading. As I talked to somebody here, MWKQS, yeah, I wouldn't I'd rather allocate my money and capital to energy and food. I would not be putting my money into stocks or ETFs or anything equity right now, because it's harder to profit from. But it's easier to profit off of energy and food right now, food production. And anything that has inflation on it. It could be base metals, it could be copper, as an example. I think that there might be potential there. I haven't seen it yet. And I talked about currencies like Canadian dollar could get impacted as well, because it's a currency that's tied back to energy. I've also, if you're looking at a currency, you might do okay with Mexico and Brazil, because Brazil produces coffee, largest producer in the world. So their currency may get impacted by that in a positive sense, or Mexico because they also produce oil as well. So they may get positively impacted as well. So, there's a lot of predictability that comes out of this in a nutshell. Have you guys got questions? I know I blab a lot here and a lot of people come in and out. Yeah. So hopefully I've answered all those questions. I've covered the models, which ones are good, which ones are we'll say questionable. Yeah, I'd rather do Codex right now, and maybe Quen if you're on a budget. But to be truthful, if you're new at this, look at the hftcode.com. Said earlier, you have a code base that works, goes up against the paper trading of interactive brokers, and you just prompt and play with that. And that's all done in Claude code. And as I said, if you're going to do that and want to do it on a budget level, equivalent of Codex from OpenAI, just only use the Haiku tier of Claude. I think Claude is kind of comparative cost-wise with Codex. So consider that if you want to get up and started right away. And as I said as well, I've got that other one that does the interview prepping as well. If you want to go into the space of trading or algo trading or whatever quant trading, have that as well. That's all at hftcode.com. And again, I have a direct link below this stream. Push a button and you're there. Couldn't be more convenient. Anybody else got any questions? No? Maybe? Yes? No? We've had some good questions today. That's what I like about this. You get different topics all the time that are never talked about. With fresh new people, that's a good thing. They bring in topics we don't talk about a lot. There might have been some replication, but that's fine. But everything's all evolving. But where it really matters is when you start going into live trading, and I keep saying I'm on the cusp, but I'm testing them now. And I think I have 3 that look good. A Bitcoin related one, Ethereum Bitcoin related one that's related around aluminum, as I said earlier, and Canadian dollar. Those are the decent looking ones, but they may be under special conditions. I don't know. But those are the 80% win ratio. So I have other ones like energy, like oil. I have a gas, an RB1. That's about 55% win ratio. That's pretty still good. So those are potentials there as well. But I'm still haven't found one that will trade the indices, the equity that's profitable. I had one for NASDAQ, didn't stick. Sorry. So it says something about the space of equity and stock and ETF. Remember, I'm using real world market data, and I went through, a good couple of hundred of these trading bots over the last month. Because remember, I'm generating 10 to 12 per session, and I could generate 4 or 5 a day. So we're going into the couple hundred. As I said earlier, you'd have to go through probably 50 bots to find a profitable one. That's how much work there is. That seems to be the ratio. It's like 1 out of 25 bots that are dynamically created, one will be a decent winner. And then out of that lot, maybe a third, about a third will be big winners. But again, it might be just because of the market condition. I don't know. So anybody got questions or comments? Almost 2 hours is a good long one. Not a long one, but a decent lengthy video stream. If you got questions or comments, let me know. I'll do a count in once, twice, 3 times, and we'll wrap her up. If not. So I want to give everybody a comment, question, whatever you're looking for. Anybody? I hope I answered all your questions, JDI. Same with MW, KQS, and the other person that started out with Krata City. I think they're gone because they're in the UK. That'd be, what time for them? Oh, that'd be late. That'd be 5 or 6 a.m. Man, oh man. Wow. So, do we have a question, a follow-up? No new questions. Okay, so let me do this. Going once, going twice, going 2.5. Tap up, tap, 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 up. Going 3 times. I guess not. Okay, I guess we're done. I'll hold on for a minute. As I said, I'm hoping to give you a better analysis on either profitable trading bots and go over those, and or at least that show profit and those conditions as well, because that will cut out a lot of, call it slop. I guess we're done. Okay, I'll leave it at that, and I'm hoping that'll be the next topic with enough data to work from over the next week on next Tuesday. Alrighty, and if you haven't joined my stream, or sorry, my website, quantlabsnet.com, you can join either off the homepage or off of Learn. And I rearranged the top part of the menu options as well. Okay, I guess we're done. Thank you very much for attending. Hopefully everything's been answered. And if you haven't seen the early part, watch it when the video gets rendered. All right, have a good night. Bye-bye. Wherever you are, have a good day. Bye. See ya.